Fantasy points and top things off with a special performance from Imagine Dragons. Secure your arms and hands inside the vehicle. Primetime League starts right now.
Oh, he got it! That almost never works. The best team in Europe stays undefeated, 6-0 for SK Gaming.
Hello and welcome to Primetime League, hiding in the brush and gathering all the information that you need to stay on top of the League of Legends pro player action. I'm Rivington Bisman III along with Joshua Jat Leesman, and we're ready to leave the base and take you onto the Rift.
That's right, Riv, and with a show this size, it is hard to be stealthy. Now, there's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right to it.
That's right. First up, we'll start things off with some unfortunate news.
Yes, over the weekend, there was breaking news about a situation between Corey and Meacher Makers that happened when he informed the team that he wanted to leave just before the start of the split. Now, yesterday, Meacher Makers released a statement that their general manager has been fired over the matter and that Corey will decide what his next steps are. Riot Games is also investigating this incident, and early this morning, Riot's Nick Allen tweeted, "This is a complex matter, and we want to be thorough and fair in our response," with more info to come this week.
That's right, and we'll continue updating the situation as we get more information. But for now, let's take a look back at the biggest game in Europe last week. In fact, it was last week's BF Game of the Week as 5-0 SK Gaming faced off against the 4-1 Elements with first place on the line.
Yeah, and this game started out with Shook getting some really nice ganks off in the mid lane. Rengar flashing out of his ultimate into a Lissandra is literally no escape.
They started off fast, Shook with 100% kill participation, but that heat backfires, and he got the team in a bit of a sticky situation.
Yeah, Aurora 508 really said it better than anyone. Shook giveth and Shook taketh away. Although SK did play this fight very well after catching out Shook.
And great play from Freddy's Azir in the top lane, always kind of mixing things up.
You don't think Azir plus Jarvan is a great combo, but when you have the Cataclysm with Azir soldiers smacking people around in there, plus the ult appeal afterwards, it's deadly.
Deadly indeed. There's the man on your screen right there putting the plays down, and shortly after, they took Baron and swept down to the bottom of the map for this fight.
And MVP of this final fight is actually N-rated for the timely Mikhails onto Freddy that really baited this entire Elements initiation in, and with the Baron buff after that fight, it was a quick victory.
And had Forgiven not died to H2K, yes, the day before, he would still be deathless.
The nice thing is, though, since he only has one death, his KDA is still... It still looks like a bug.
It still looks like a bug, indeed. So let's take a quick look at the European LCS standings after that BF game. These are not a bug. It's a close race at the top of the table, where SK Gaming, Fnatic, and Elements are in first, second, and third, respectively, with the Wolves and Roccat joining the Unicorns at 3 and 3 in the middle of the table. And to give us some more information on the undefeated SK Gaming, let's bring in one of our resident European experts. What's up, Shocks?
What's poppin', Riv?
Not a whole lot. So a couple of weeks ago, you ranked SK Gaming as the second best team in the EU LCS, behind Fnatic. You care to change your mind?
Well, I was wrong for this week at least. SK Gaming is reigning solo at the top of the table of the European LCS. 6-0, what more can we say? Well, we could pull up their stat lines because they are very impressive for the whole team for SK. They have the highest team KDA in the European LCS. They have fantastic objective control. They've got a tight lid on that Dragon and Baron, fantastic GPM all around, keeping those CS numbers up. And those are also a couple of the factors that helped them in that game versus Elements because they didn't get off to the best start. Fraggen and Shook, as said, were getting some kills early, but SK, they laid back, they controlled the map, they made sure that they were even in gold so they could come back the moment that Elements overstepped their boundaries. And that's exactly what they did. Elements in the red side of SK's jungle overstepped their boundaries. SK went in, they won the fight, rather, with the help of Freddy's Azir. They turned it around and they were able to drive that game home for them. Svenskeren was our MVP for week 3, and I actually had a little discussion. I wanted the entire team to be MVP because they've all performed so well. It ended up going to Svenskeren. Another guy that would have been in there, of course, was Forgiven. Fantastic play again. And there was a difference in the interview when I had with him post-game. Last week, if you remember, I asked him, you know, are you guys the best bottom lane in Europe? He said, by far. It became this whole thing. And in this interview after the Elements game, he was a little more down-toned when I asked, how long is this winning streak going to end? He said, well, we don't know. We're going to see what teams we're up against. It's all about teamwork for us as a team. We are performing well. And it's nice to hear that side as well. And I think that's also what's keeping them on top.
All right, Shocks, stick around because now we're going to take a quick look at Fnatic, who were hoping to keep pace with SK Gaming, but standing in their path were the 2-2 Unicorns of Love. Starting out into this game, it was about the bottom lane and a mistimed window of opportunity that Fnatic took up as an advantage of.
Yeah, Hillsang really thought they could go in here because he had level 6 to just a level 4 of Yellowstar, and he wasn't even in the lane. But he shows up at the last second, stuns him under the turret, lands a good exhaust, and really just makes that entire gank backfire.
And Fnatic, in the early game, continue to make plays, Yellowstar here being a big proponent of that one.
I mean, this is the Fnatic team that had been undefeated coming into this game. They always find the right fights. They have large amounts of crowd control. The stunning there from Yellowstar starting that fight, and everything did seem to be going their way until these late game fights, Riv.
Like you were saying, it was crazy to see Fnatic catching Unicorns of Love on this very safe and fast mobility team, but it just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the jungle Nidalee finally landed some spears from Kikis, and the late game Ahri as well, plus Fizzachachi's Fizz, just started to get some kills, and Fnatic couldn't really recover.
And the kiss of death here, Yellowstar trying to flash over the charm, but right into it.
Yeah, that was so close to being a great play.
That was huge.
But ended up just looking like a giant fumble, and ultimately that was the final play to cost them the game.
That would be the win for Unicorns of Love. And Shocks, that match took Fnatic out of first place. Did the Unicorns of Love get lucky, or does that match tell us anything else?
Well, let me break it down for you, Riv. First off, to set the story a little bit, the Unicorns of Love are a middle-of-the-table team here in the European LCS. They went 1-1 in week 2, 1-1 in the week before that, and we were asking the question, do they have it in them to beat those top-tier teams? And they did in beating Fnatic. They banned out Lissandra, Zed, and Rengar, and those were components of that pick-heavy, aggressive style that Fnatic likes to play. I don't think Fnatic was thrown off that much by the pick and ban phase. It was more, to me, in the late-game team fights that they dropped the ball and that the Unicorns of Love just played them better and came out on top. I think most of it was maybe an off day for the players. There was a lot of individual mistakes in there and couldn't really get the ball rolling or close it out. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that Fnatic always goes back to those same comps because they played them so extremely well. And on the sides of the Unicorns of Love, well, they beat Fnatic in that day, and then they lost to the Copenhagen Wolves the next day. Typical EU LCS.
All right, and Shocks, since you're here, I've got to ask you about your latest Shocks Fired. Last week's Bjergsen started things off by telling Amazing that he missed him. And he said he missed Bjergsen, and that they would have to get together at Worlds. Then, Shocks Fired. You said, oh, you're both going to be on the desk?
Well, for that to happen, Amazing first has to make it into the LCS.
All right, Shocks, thanks for joining us, and remind me not to cross you on Twitter.
I got my eye on you, Riv.
All right, I'm calling in for some backup. Freak, where you at?
Sorry, Riv, Freak is not here. Call me Earthquake today, because I'm after Shocks. But speaking of Twitter, last week we started a death watch and asked you guys to predict when Forgiven would finally die in-game.
Who's going to be the lucky person to kill Forgiven? Actually, that reminds me, there was a question that Primetime League asked. What time, what game will Forgiven die first? And Fox is going to dash to safety.
Fox won't be dying just now, but Forgiven is going to get chunked on. Could this be it? As soon as you say it, and guess what? It's Voidal who makes Forgiven mortal and rated now. Also going down as Yarnan picks that one up. As soon as you mention it, it's over.
Well, thanks for jinxing a quick shot and bringing Forgiven to his graves. But in SK's first game last week, they did die against H2K. 11 minutes, 50 seconds of the game, he fell over. But that was good news for our winner at King of Kimchi, who tweeted that Forgiven will die week 3 H2K around 12 minutes. We do have to call out one tweeter who actually got within 5 seconds of the actual time. At Genair tweeted, Forgiven will die at 11 minutes and 45 seconds against H2K. Unfortunately, Gainer did not follow the rules. He left out the week. Technically, only the delicious Korean dish should be in our Hall of Fame, but you know what? We're kind of in a Forgiven sort of mood. So we're going to make both you guys inaugural inductees into that PTL Hall of Fame. And hey, good for you. You're joined by our first ever pro player, TSM support Lustboy. If you're not already following him on Twitter, you should do so because he's hilarious. And that way you won't miss gems like this one. On Monday, Shocks tweeted out asking how people's weekends were. Lustboy responded, it was 2-0. Looks like this guy can fire back. Right now, though, we want you to wrap your brains around this week's Twitter question. Later today, we'll be talking about CJ Entis' Coco breaking the CS record. So with that in mind, we want you to use your powers of prediction and tell us which LCS player, NA or EU, will get the highest CS in a single game this week, and what will that final score be. Whoever guesses the right pro and is closest to the final CS count will be the winner. And if you get within 5 CS, you'll join Lustboy, King of Kimchi, and Genair in the PTL Hall of Fame. And just to show that we do keep a close eye on your tweets, it was brought to our attention that we missed one of you guys last week. So at Overdramatic Toast, you actually had the correct answer as steal back to our question before about best debut KDA in the LCS. So we need to honor you, with the caveat that your name goes by just as fast as the others did. Congratulations, Overdramatic Toast. Tragically delicious. But now we've prepared a special treat for you guys, so sit back, let's go behind the scenes and into the ears of the pros. It's time for mic check.
This is not solo queue. This is LCS.
This is Sparta.
Yo, can we get Chris turned up?
Yeah.
What? You can't hear me?
No.
For real? I'm just turning you up.
Chris, I need you to turn up for me.
Woo!
Let's go, boys.
Woo!
Okay, so what's the plan?
Just run for your life. Run for your life.
Pull the dragon to the right every time, no matter what.
Leave the dragon in the pit.
Alright, we're gonna fight in Dragon Pit this time.
Let's clump behind it with no jumps or flashes up.
Just go ham on them. Go, I see.
Nice!
Nice! That's it, man!
That's fucking it, bros.
No vision. Go. Let's go, baby! Let's go!
Yeah, let's go!
Very good job.
Really nice fight. Okay,
nice one combo, Rex.
Don't get too overconfident, guys.
You just have to believe.
I'm believing right now.
You just have to believe.
That's all you. Let's go. Keep it strong. Oh, nice. Very nice.
+2 fantasy points. Fantasy points. Fantasy.
Mine. Finish the game, boys. There we go, boys. Nice, guys.
Are we?
Nice, finally. Hook. Моя сука.
Nice!
Indeed.
Nice indeed. As Gambit finally get a win on the board. Now let's take a quick spin halfway around the globe to China's LPL, where Vici Gaming was no longer content to sit in the middle of the standings. Their first opponent was the 5th place Starhorn Royal Club. And Starhorn Royal Club, actually both of these teams kind of sitting in the middle. Like we said, they don't want to anymore.
Yeah, Starhorn had been looking like a slightly stronger team coming into this, and in the first game, Cola was kind of showing you why. He had such a dominating performance on Mundo here, getting the solo kill, and then transitioning that power throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, Cola was definitely shaking things up for Starhorn this game, easily able to take a lot of map control, and you could say he was going where he pleases.
Yeah, Mundo everywhere in this fight. You think he's kind of low. Actually, he's just going to run all over the place, solo the 80 carry, stick around, kill everybody else, always right up in the face of Vici that entire match.
Yeah, by the end of the game, he was just refusing to die. Not many times you can get on the Nexus turrets and have one guy tank both.
2 Nexus turrets right there. Those things do 82.5% armor penetration, but he had enough health.
Yeah, he was a big guy. Cola comes through very big as Starhorn Royal Club takes game 1, and starting off this one with a kill counter for Vasily as we enter your next highlight.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a shot back by the old Vici right there. And Mata and Vasily had kind of yet to click as a duo there. Mata, Dandy, these guys aren't having much success. And Vasily got back on an old favorite, Tristana. Boy, did it work.
That he did. If they were having any troubles before, they definitely know they have it out here. Vasily can get going and easily carrying the game. You know, we wondered in North America when he would do this. Now we'll wonder when he does in China.
And a flash.
Jeez.
I mean, there's a lot of rocket jumps in this highlight, and you're really wondering here, how high can this kill counter go? He had multiple triple kills in this game. This was the fight really where he kind of took control of the game, and he just kept jumping around. He made it all the way to the bottom lane.
Multiple triple kills, one after the other, and really has to be feeling good about that game, putting the naysayers to the side and putting up big numbers for his team. Our next highlight comes from Vici Gaming versus Snake. And we're starting off this one, taking a look at the bottom lane where Mata and Vasily were aggressive the whole time, and it finally paid off. Yeah, Snake a really good team, but maybe showing a little bit of inconsistency. Here, Vasily really gets going early on Kalista, and honestly, this mistake by Snake, clumping up against Lissandra, pretty dangerous. Really great use of the equalizer, funneling Snake in. See Heatong coming in. He just goes ahead and cleans up the entire fight. Here, Beast is going in. It looks good, but he actually baits his team into a pretty bad fight. Yeah, Baka as well, even though he had the Azir ultimate and pretty close to max items. You look, he has a Zephyr in his build. You think, all right, maybe this game's over. But was it actually? Yeah, Vici thought so. They quickly move into the base, but Crystal, he had some other ideas on Kog'Maw on the back line. Yeah, Vasily had a little bit of a Nexus turret attached to him by the end there, and despite being destroyed the whole game, Crystal came up huge with big kills there. He was a 4-item Kog'Maw after all, and could Snake really come back here 50 minutes into the game? Right, 50 minutes, they've just gone coast to coast to hit the Nexus turrets, and they can't focus anything else with the short timers now for Vici trying to come up and save the Nexus. But Vasily and Mata are alive by the end of it. Even more kills. He had 18 on Trist, 16 on Kalista here on 2 different days, and they actually do pull out a win in a crazy game. 34-16 in the end. We've all been there. It hurts, but sometimes it happens. Vici would carry a bit of that momentum into game 2, focusing on Flandre in the top lane here. Yeah. After this gank, though, nice job to shut down Flandre. There was no more messing around. It didn't work. Crystal took over this game, along with another Baka Xerath performance. It was like each fight they tried to take to look good, but was always flipped around by Snake for the advantage to their side. Yeah, because if you're Dandy right here for Vici, you think on Vi, if I can get my Vi ultimate onto Kalista, we can burst him down. But that wasn't the case. It wasn't in sync, and 3-item Kalista, 23 minutes into the game, a little bit too much to handle. And it was 24 minutes when Vici thought they had the fight that would bring them back into the game. But again, swaying easily in the way of Snake because of Kalista. Right after that, the surrender comes in because the power, it was all too there for Crystal in his gameplay coming out. Kog'Maw and Kalista, big showing, and Snake is still putting up numbers. Yeah, they had actually a really close series there. Vici couldn't make many moves in the standings. The tricky thing about that 2-0 system, you win 2 games, you get 3 points. You split 1-1, you just get the 1 point. So it's like they didn't even get a 2-0. And now for more insight into Vici Gaming's matches, along with the rest of the LPL, I'd like to welcome Pastry Time, who's coming to us from Oceania's brand new studio. What's up, Pastry?
Nothing much, Reef. How are you?
Doing pretty good. First up, I'd like to talk about Vici Gaming holding their own against the big boys. What was the key to those wins?
I mean, whenever you look at Vici, even just on paper, they've got so much star power that your eyes are drawn there. And to be honest, it's been both Dandy and Mata, the utility duo, the world champions, that have really picked up slack for the team. You put these 2 players that are this good on a team, and eventually their solo laners are going to be given so much a look to carry. And to be perfectly honest, even though their mid laner Heatong has had some pretty good moments, it is all Vasily when it comes to carrying for this team. Mata and Dandy are just so good at giving him room, and when he's on a hyper carry, especially like Tristana, he's really delivering.
All right, Pastry Time, stick with us because another team looking to move up the LPL standings was Edward Gaming. And their first matchup had them facing Master 3. Coming into this game, we did see that it would be a fight put up from both sides. But the hooks to start off the game from Love CD were really what helped out.
Unbelievable that Def got hit by that death sentence. He thought he was dashing in the right direction, but the hook follows a little bit faster than the Valkyrie. And it started off M3 looking pretty good. But this game was all about Pawn versus Dade in the mid lane.
It really was. And Dade thinking he could get himself in, thinking he could get something, but he comes away just giving up a kill there.
Traditionally, you wouldn't think of Lux as a counterpick to the LeBlanc, but Pawn kind of made a pretty good case for it this game.
Yeah, with steady control of the game, EDG forced M3 to check Baron there. Pawn says checkmate. They just move on. Another good laser for good measure. Why not?
Yeah, and then they finish off Candy as well. So EDG was looking really on point this game. They picked the unconventional Lux mid, unconventional nowadays, and they just crush.
Hey man, I've been loving those picks. Cannon, Lux, bring it on. See here now jumping in 4 minutes. EDG are just kind of staring down Master 3 in bottom lane.
Yeah, and we can see Miko, a new support here for EDG, playing instead of Mouse, played both of these games and played very well. This dive, though, went a little bit pair
Little sloppy, but good
then
cleanup.
somehow, even though it was a 4v3 dive, they still picked up a kill out of it, which is ridiculous.
Somehow, indeed. 7 minutes in, or 7 minutes later, I should say, Dade kind of finds himself alone here. Caught out. Miko really making some plays.
Yeah, I have to point out, actually, Deft built the QSS right after BF sorted this game. But it didn't matter because EDG had enough of a lead and enough crowd control. Notice how he's pretty much just shooting stuff in from the back anyway, so he just needs the Super Mega Deft Rocket.
Shattering dreams right there. We heard Pastry and Papa Smithy talking about it was to protect the Deft comp, but he didn't really need any protection. He was doing his own work.
Yeah, he forces Looper to Zanyas right there, right on top of traps. I mean, such solid play there. He starts out defensively, keeps it pretty defensive, but it's just enough defense to enable the offense.
Just enough indeed. Deft solo kills Looper there. We saw EDG easily able to end game 2.
They look so good as far as Chinese teams. I mean, they're really making Pawn and Deft work with the rest of the team there.
It really works out for him so far. And Edward Gaming is out to a commanding lead right now. And are they the best team in China, Pastry?
Well, Riv, I have to say, after last weekend's results in the standings, I think so. EDG look so incredible, and the thing that's really scary for all the other teams in the LPL is that EDG are unbelievably consistent.
And their mid laner Pawn has played a huge role in their wins this season. What can you tell us about him?
Pawn's really good at League of Legends. That's basically the easiest way to put it, but Pawn has been doing crazy stuff and whatever his team needs for him as well. He's such a fluid player as a mid laner. He always fits the situation. He adapts in team fights incredibly well, and his lane mechanics are almost second to none as well. He's, started off playing more of the assassins that were popular earlier on, and he's played Azir, he's played Xerath, but recently he's been going a little crazy, playing Lux in the weekend and Veigar twice over the last weekend as well. So Pawn has basically been giving as much room as he wants, and every time EDG give him more room, he just takes over games more and more. He's an unbelievably good player, possibly the best performing mid laner currently in the LPL.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Pastry. We'll check in again next week. Until then, enjoy the new studio.
I will do. Cheers, Riff.
So let's take a quick look at the LPL standings to see where the teams wound up after last week's matches. After going 6-0 in their games, Edward Gaming overtook OMG for the #1 spot, while Snake moved up to 2nd, and OMG dropped all the way down to 3rd. Meanwhile, Invictus moved into a tie for 4th with LGD and Starhorn Royal Club, slipping a notch into 6th place. Now let's send things over to the fantastic Mr. Jat to take us through the Fantasy LCS.
Thank you, Rib. Now, after 3 weeks of matches across the LCS, here's a look at the fantasy results along with some tips for the upcoming rig. Surprise, though, it was another European takeover. 8 of the top 10 spots were owned by the Copenhagen Wolves and Gambit, with only their supports didn't make it in. But on to the top performers, we have Freeze at 93.8 points. Definitely the #1 stud from last week, but actually the #1 stud of the year. It's the most points a player has scored in a week by almost 20 points this year. Soren was the second highest point scorer. That would have been enough to be the top performer in pretty much any other week, but he is #2, and Nick as well, 74 points, as Gambit made a huge bounce back in fantasy point scores last week. On the flip side, though, we do have some big-time underperformers, and this was mainly due to team underperformance, but it obviously reflects in fantasy. Now, St. Vicious, Gravity slid a little bit, only 14 points, was a complete U-turn from him and his performance thus far. And then another 2 guys, Pobelter and Altec. Winterfox did slide to 8th in the NALCS standings, and if you're in an 8-team league, you may have also slid to 8th if you were starting both of these guys, as I'm sure many people did since they're hyped-up fantasy players. That's enough of last week, though. We need to go to next week with some sleepers. European LCS. Do you have a player from the European LCS? Good. You're probably going to do well. I'd say you should start them next week. Apollo is another guy, if you're out of European players, versus Winterfox and Team Coast. He is the top fantasy performer on Impulse, which is a little surprising to think of, but that's why he's a sleeper. He might do well next week. Slushy and Maple Street as well from Team Liquid, and Team Dignitas are the teams they're playing against. So these 2 Team 8 guys should be some top fantasy earners next week. Also have to keep you guys up to date on some last-minute alerts. Casing is in for Voidal as H2K, so if you had Voidal, make sure to swap him out. Casing should be available in your league. Shifter is another guy you probably want to bench this week until he performs at a higher level. Only 10 points per game isn't enough from a starting mid laner in Fantasy LCS. And Piglet, even though a lot of people used early draft picks on him, he's only getting 1 kill per game since he became a starter. And until Liquid turns it around, as well as Piglet, you should probably look for some alternatives. maybe there's a European AD carry out there that would probably perform better than 1 kill per game. Anyway, hopefully that will fine-tune your fantasy bottom line, and we will check back next week to see just how we did.
All right, guys, so since we're on the subject of fantasies, let's mention my personal fantasy, which is ruling over everybody in Primetime League's Fantasy League of Legends Legendary League. As you can see, I triumphed, of course, over Xpeke, thanks in no small part to my amazing lineup. It's really a big callback to Worlds, where Peke couldn't get carried by the rest of Fnatic. Surprise, as shots fired for you guys. Now, of course, it's great to see that my Nemesis, the Imagine Dragons, they fell to Freddie Wong. Glad that happened. He said, UOL have been doing an unhealthy amount of work for my fantasy LCS team, especially in my victory against Imagine Dragons. Snap. Well, kudos to you, Freddie, but I'm a bit sad you missed an opportunity for a pun in there, like, oh snap, Dragons. After last week's matchups, I'm now in a 3-way tie for second place with Xpeke and Freddie, while Snoopy, for now, sits undefeated at the top of the standings. But of course, that's fine because our featured matchup this week, who else features me? I'm taking on Snoopy in a battle for first place, and of course, I'm going to win that. This week, though, I want to get you guys involved. Send a tweet to @LBesports with the hashtag PTL, then, for some reason, add Snoopy win if you have no idea how to play Fantasy LCS and think he's going to beat me, or if you're ready to live in the real world, use hashtag FreakWin along with hashtag PTL, since everyone should know I'm going to crush him.
As much as I hate to break Freak's fantasy, it's time to turn our attention over to North America and last week's LCS action. First up was a battle for sole control of first place as Counterlogic Gaming fought the force of Gravity. But I don't know if Gravity was enough to keep these guys down right now.
Well, Aframu said after the game they needed the tank, so why not just play Alistar? And he made so many plays there, despite getting ulted by Azir, got the knockup, and allowed Link to pick up a kill.
Another guy making plays, Link. But here, Aframu, the 4-man pulverized the true shot barrage through the entire team. I guess it doesn't matter what these guys are putting on the Rift right now. The compositions they have just work with the team.
Yeah, I mean, Link, the beneficiary of some fantastic initiation by the Alistar there, and he was getting exceedingly fed in this game.
Just a bit.
He got the Manamune transformed by 21 minutes and completely destroyed Cop 1v1.
All the pressure that CLG had allowed them to do free things like that.
Yep.
Fights like this as well, already taking the base with CLG, Link, and the top Scion Spartan fighting that one out.
CLG crushed Gravity right there, completely changing the discussion about top teams in North America.
Absolutely. Speaking about mid laners, Bjergsen here as we focus on Team Solo Mid versus Impulse making some plays, but it was all about Wild Turtle and this game changer.
God, I could not believe that this stole the dragon. And this really just seemed to energize TSM because immediately after that, everybody started making plays, this guy in particular.
This guy in particular, once again, getting solo kills in his lane. Not something you usually see at the high level of the LCS, but he keeps bringing it up.
Yeah. Fast forward a bit, he's now 4-0, and no, they shouldn't be pushing there. It's 4-on-1, actually, but he's still able to get these kills. Look at this. Finish, he just knows how much damage Ahri does and where the acquisition ranges of the spells are.
Well, if you were wondering if Bjergsen can still bring back the power to the LCS, he does it once again in a split and pretty much controls this game for his team. You can even see people on social media thinking the same thing.
It was such a ridiculous game for Bjergsen. The rest of TSM did file in afterwards and really destroy Impulse to make them 5-1.
5-1 indeed, and after all was said and done, here's what the North American standings look like after week 3. CLG and TSM both own a piece of first place with 5-1 records and hold the 2-game lead over most of the league, who are stuck in a traffic jam in 3rd place. And that brings us to our BF Game of the Week. It'll be between the Golden Age Counterlogic Gaming and the reigning champs Team Solo Mid in a true battle for first place in what has once again become the new American El Clasico. But there's a lot more on the line besides sole control of the standings.
That's right. COD's Hotshot tweeted to Reggie on Sunday, and he said, "We agreed that if we tie this week, loser of next week will dye their hair pink. Shook on it, witnesses present." Now, at first, Reggie didn't look like he would take that bait because it may not have all been true, but he gave in and replied, "Fine, bet is on. COG has always been free anyways."
Wow, Reggie taking a few lessons from Shocks there. I mean, you can catch our BF Game of the Week this Sunday, February 15th, around 2 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Central European Time, and we'll have the hair dye ready for next week, just in case. Now, speaking of a big game, let's head over to Korea for a look at the LCK, where it was a battle for second as Jin Air Green Wings faced off against CJ Entis.
Yeah, I mean, you said big game. This was also a very long game. We jumped to 33 minutes in at the start of this one, and Riv, it was looking to me like CJ Entis was going to close this one out. I mean, Coco's Jace was ridiculous. Yes, they were against a Xerath, but they were winning the poke battle.
Right, picking up a 3-for-1 there. Things are looking gravy, and then things usually go wrong here, right? The Baron fight.
Well, so much had happened in this game. There were actually a bunch of downed inhibitor turrets in CJ Entis' base, so despite their 5 dragons and a pretty close fight, they had to bail out to go save their base, which just gave all the pressure to Jin Air.
Yeah, it was actually their undoing to stay for that. At 79 minutes, the Winions were pretty much the story of Game 1.
It's hard to make a 79-minute game into a minute-and-a-half highlight.
Very true. Game 2 was just as tight here in the early game, which really had everybody pressuring to get the advantage.
Yeah, well, if you see a Rumble ult, that also means a Rumble is near, and Trace was just tracing out everyone's graves in this one. He just destroyed CJ Entis after that fight, and this really gave him a lot of momentum.
Yeah, tack on 14 kills in 27 minutes, and Jin Air somehow escaped certain death here.
Yeah, this was a really smart play, actually, by Jin Air. They knew they had the Callista, and they knew, since they were against a poke comp, if they all sit in the back of the pit, then honestly, the poke's just going to help them with Baron. They get a little too close, they win the fight, and they take that Baron.
Yeah, they take that, they use it now to sweep to the bottom of the map and really just clinch the game on CJ Entis here. Great control by Jin Air.
A much more solid victory in Game 2 than in Game 1, and even though the series in overall probably had as many minutes as a best of 3 going 3 games, it was a 2-0 there, and they look happy.
Yeah, definitely a little faster coming into that second game, which I'm sure all the fans were happy about, as LCK loves to go for those long hauls. After their 5th week of action, here's a look at the standings in Korea. The Tigers remain in control at the top with their 6-0 series record.
And while CJ Entis now controls second place at 5-2 after winning their series early this morning, it puts them just ahead of Jin Air Green Wings and SKT.
And now let's bring in a man who can tell us what will be happening in the final week of LCK's first round robin. Please welcome OGN's Chobra. How's it going, Chobra?
Pretty fantastic. How about you, Riv?
Not doing too bad. The first thing I've got to ask you about today is that Jin Air versus CJ Entis game, specifically GBM Xerath.
Yeah, GBM Xerath comes back again to surprise us all. He surprised us the first time by blind picking Xerath without knowing the enemy mid and winning the game, and he's done it again. He blind picks Xerath and goes 7-0-5 to help win the game for the Jin Air Green Wings against CJ Entis in that first game. But then it wasn't just GBM that carried the game. Captain Jack brings out Callista, shows Space how it's done on the enemy team, and has some excellent play going with the Runan's Hurricane build.
And another thing I want to hit on in that match is CJ Entis' Coco getting the CS record in that incredibly long game.
Yeah, the game going on for over 75 minutes, nearing, I believe, pretty much 80 minutes long. And Coco hits a record of 726 CS. I mean, that is just a mind-blowing number. Soon enough, we're going to hit 1,000 CS in one of these games. But, you know, that just shows that this game was super close. CJ really had things going, but at some point, they just lost out on the scaling towards the late game, and Jin Air pulled through.
Well, all right. And this morning, 4th place CJ Entis faced 5th place Incredible Miracle. How did that series turn out?
Well, CJ climbed back in. They got eventually the win against IM in a 2-1 series, but it was an absolutely messy bloodbath. And the real assessment coming through here is that people are noting that, yeah, CJ still has the mechanics. They still have those strong players, but something about their preparation seems a little bit off. And looking at it myself, I have to agree, especially their picks and bans. We look at both last week's games and this week's, where they played the Jin Air Green Wings and IM, as we talked about. They seem to always have just one set of picks prepared for each week. Last week, we saw that Jason Corky come back again and again, both game 1 and 2. This week with IM, we see the Kassadin for Coco and then the Rumble for Shy coming out 2 games out of 3. They don't seem to have as many flex picks as the strongest teams. If they really want to break into the top 3, I think they're going to have to work on their champion pools.
All right. Thanks once again, Chobra. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck this week. All right, now let's check in on the action in the LMS. And that's where the undefeated Taipei Assassins met AHQ Esports, who were looking to climb the standings. And this game actually became very tough for both teams down to the wire.
Yeah, and Wynn's trying to brute force a gank here, flashing to get the ultimate, knowing the Cog wouldn't be able to escape. But
it looked good.
Lulu came in at just the right time. That's the problem with brute forcing ganks sometimes. A little thing goes wrong, and it gets turned.
You got to keep an eye on the window of that teleport and the possibilities the other team has to use it. Here we see AHQ going in for a really nice engage, but TPA has a teleport of their own this time.
Speaking of teleports, right, 2 people straight into a wall. It just destroys him for that fight.
Oh, setting him up perfectly for Chowie there. TPA would use this, and when you give one of these teams a lead, they start to use that lead a little bit more. We see going in for the Dragon Steal here, wins, and it's kind of should be noted, that was the second Baron Steal.
Just unbelievably clutch play from him here. This game could have gone either way depending on the result of those smites.
Crazy.
But Wins pulled it out. Chowie had some great moves in the back of this fight as Xerath. They clean up for 5 with Baron, and that just means the game's over 48 minutes in.
So strong. You know what happens after you take Baron. You're able to push down. TPA had the control of that game, and they made it look clean once they started making moves.
Yes, they did.
So here are the current LMS standings after 4 weeks, including 3 matches that took place this morning. The Taipei Assassins have a solid lead in first with an 8-0 record.
Yes, but very close behind them is the Yowie Flash Wolves, then Hong Kong Esports and AHQ are teams looking to close the gap and challenge TPA.
That's right. Now, while the last week has been full of big plays, there can only be 5 that are so epic that they make the Penta. If you see a play that you think needs to make it into the best of the best, be sure to hit us up at LOL Esports and use hashtag the Penta.
Yes, but for now, sit back and prepare your retinas for this week's Giant Ball of Awesome. It's time for the Penta.
That's right, coming in at number 5, it's the GE Tigers with the ferocious mind games.
What am I looking at? That is a bunch of cat ears, or I don't know what's going on. We're going to like Hello Kitty schools. I'm totally GE Tigers, but
they've got their tiger,
I don't know what's going on,
their
guys.
tiger ears on and their pink vests.
I have no explanation.
I love GE, and they're constantly changing uniforms, bringing it to the next level.
At number 4, the Unseen Blade isn't actually the deadliest.
Ryu, he wants Fox.
Yep, and he looks like he's going for it. There's the death mark, but he's already taken quite a lot of damage, and he's forced to back away as the Zanya's Hourglass goes, but Fox has other ideas, and he takes down Ryu. Oh my goodness.
And at number 3, Wins blew everyone away with his amazing Baron Steal.
I cannot believe!
Popping in at number 2, Cool's outplay on Rookie made us look twice.
But he's going to need so much more magic resistance. Cool. Here's the battle of the Assassins, forced to use that flash. There's a flash into the charm, doesn't find its mark here, as Rookie just gets destroyed.
The return deletion from Cool right there lets you know just how much damage we're talking about right here.
And our number 1 play this week was Wild Turtle with the Blind Dragon Steal.
Janna and Jinx are top lane, sends the rocket out for a bit of scouting and maybe some damage.
Oh, no! He got it!
Well, that just happened.
That almost never works.
The Dragon Steal is real.
It was blind, too.
Oh, yeah.
And now from the world's top plays to the guys who played Worlds last year, I'd like to welcome Imagine Dragons to the Primetime League stage. How's it going, gentlemen?
Hello. Good. Good to be here.
So how was the trip? What have you guys been doing since Worlds?
Playing League of Legends.
Some of us are gold now. Some of us got placed bronze 5, going 6 and 4 placements.
The new season placements. So intimidating.
Yeah.
We wrote a record too, guys.
Also, we made
Yeah, that kind of counts as doing so. Absolutely. Yeah. So we've played a few games since Worlds, but that's the last time I saw you guys. What was that experience playing at finals like?
I mean, that was one of the coolest experiences I think any of us have ever had. Not only was that our first time in that territory, but I think also just how grand it was playing in that stadium with all the people who kind of shared a similar interest to us. It just felt right.
I like playing with these guys, but playing with 120 other musicians at the same time is a lot of fun.
Hey.
I love you guys, but 60-piece percussion ensembles, 60-piece orchestra in there. It's gonna be a fun time.
It was good.
I actually got to see you guys a few weeks ago. We drafted Fantasy League of Legends teams against each other. Now, Wayne, you were the one actually captaining the ship, but what was all the input? Did you pick the players you wanted, or did you get overridden?
Yes, I was captaining the ship that completely wasted you that first week.
Whoa.
You had a couple co-captains. Oh, yeah, but these guys helped.
First mate?
Assistant to the manager. No, it actually was. It was definitely a group effort. We all...
There was a lot of input going on, a lot of ideas.
We took some time to really craft that text or that tweet towards you because we really wanted you to feel the love from us and also to just feel your absolute failure.
Thankfully,
we were really proud of ourselves. We were really
I mean,
proud.
you should be proud of yourselves. That was a very rare feat to ever beat me in anything. So I gotta say, you're one of like 3 people in a list total. So congratulations, guys.
Keep going.
If you want to keep this banter going, I mean, I have comebacks for days. But you guys have a full season ahead of you, of course. Of course, a great start. Congratulations. But how do you see your overall fantasy season going?
Well, we really see ourselves winning. I've envisioned myself walking on stage and the acceptance speech and all that stuff. And
the trophy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a trophy.
Is there a trophy? No.
Actually, there might be a trophy.
There should be a trophy.
There should be a trophy.
I think honestly, we feel really good about it. I feel like, the first week I didn't have Piglet, and that was a little rough, but now he's back and better than ever.
I feel like things are stabilizing around the teams in general, and I feel good about our team. We got a good comp.
Yeah, we believe in positive vibes.
Our flex is a mid. How many other teams can say that? Our flex is a mid. We're not going double ADC like a lot of other teams. We have diversity. We have we got a good team.
All right, guys. Well, good luck to you. I know the fans out there and myself are hoping you beat Freak in Fantasy this year, and we're all counting on that. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you do when you're not beating Freak at Fantasy, when you guys are making music, and what's up with the new album? How's it coming, and when can we expect it?
Well, we just finished it. It comes out February 17th. It's called Smoke and Mirrors. We wrote a lot of it on the road, so it was about a 2-year process. While we were touring Night Visions, we were really writing Smoke and Mirrors. I really feel like as a band, we've been a band for 6 years, and that record, our first record, was written 4 years ago. So we had a lot of growth to do, and so we try to push out on our boundaries a little bit and kind of explore new places and hopefully mature a little bit on the outside, and of course, never mature on the inside. But,
never.
Yeah, we actually we took a house in Vegas and we tore it all apart, turned it into a recording studio, moved in there, and just spent as much time as we needed, taking all the songs that we had written over the last 2 years on the road, even some maybe in Korea at Worlds, and kind of turned it into a, everything we wanted it to be.
I think Korea was probably my favorite place I've been in the entire world. You can walk the streets at like 3 a.m. and feel safe anywhere, and the people are just so kind. The food was so good. That honestly, Worlds was.
That wasn't really work, was it?
No,
that was just fun. That was all fun.
And we got to play League, in the
so
PC
thank you guys. Thank you, Ryan.
I got coached by Snoop A.
Yeah, Snoop
and Crepo.
Yeah,
and Crepo definitely helped out.
No, I don't really count.
Snoop A showed me positioning. It was great.
So played at Worlds, on stage, played with pros at Worlds. Couldn't have been a better time. No. So coming up this Sunday on the NALCS, you guys are actually debuting one of your new songs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a lot of new songs, but this is one of the new songs called Shots. It's a song that's it's kind of about. I mean, you'd probably relate with it, Riv. It's about messing up everything good in your life. So.
It's like all those normal games we play together. I have nothing to say to this.
No, but all joking aside, it's I just feel like since I was a young kid, I always felt like the things that mattered most to me are the things that kind of trampled over, and but we kind of wanted to display that in kind of a celebratory way. I love the juxtaposition of kind of heavy lyrics with more of a celebratory type song. So that's kind of Shots in a nutshell. It's about you. So
shots fired indeed. Well, gentlemen, I believe that was a pretty good last hit, but we do have one more last hit, which is their hit single from Worlds. This is Warriors. Take it away, gentlemen.
Very nice.
As a child, you would wait and watch from far away, but you always knew that you'd be the one to work while they all play. In youth, you'd lay awake at night and scheme of all the things that you would change, but it was just a dream. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. Here we are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors that built this town. The time will come when you will have to rise above the rest and prove yourself. Your spirit never dies. Farewell, I've gone to take my throne above, but don't weep for me, 'cause this will be the labor of my love. Here we are,